What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Auto Auction Rebuilds. We are back in very windy, gusty Oklahoma today. It is December 7th. This is the first day of Hanukkah. I celebrate Hanukkah with my family, and I want to wish you all a happy Hanukkah as well. So today I was blessed with noticing a couple pretty significant problems with my $30,000 truck that I got for just $10,000. And in a previous video I said, I think we absolutely stole this, but as it turns out, someone took me for a ride. And to show you what I mean, well, there's a couple things, but we're gonna start with my driveway. I came out, I was backing out of the driveway a couple days ago, and I saw this one little spot. And I thought it's probably just moisture, maybe condensation, that's fine. And then today I noticed a bigger spot. Well, I climbed under the truck and just took a quick peek, and it's not moisture. It is transmission fluid. And yeah, well, we're going to need to get this thing on the lift. I'm going to have to take it down to AR headquarters, and we're going to get it on the lift, try to figure out exactly what's going on, because everything under here is brand new. The entire powertrain has less than 10,000 miles on it. Everything from the motor, the transmission, the rear differential. Another issue that I'm working on is the speedometer is 12 or so miles an hour off. We're going to have to probably change out the driven gear. We may have to change out the drive gear as well. I don't know. We'll figure that out later. But we have a bigger problem than a transmission leak and a speedometer being off. And that is, we've never had heat in this truck. And I was thinking, you know, it could be a million things. It could be the radiator cap, but I mean, this is brand new. The radiator is an aftermarket, bigger radiator. It is brand new. Engine's brand new. Everything under here is brand new. Somebody's spent over $20,000 putting this truck together, and I think I finally figured out why they got rid of it so cheap. The reason we never had any heat is because I came out, I took off the radiator cap, I fired the truck up with the cap off, and immediately massive exhaust bubbles were blowing out. You could see exhaust gases. You could literally see exhaust coming out of the radiator. Well, guess what, guys? When you have a pressurized cooling system and you have exhaust, basically combustion gases, going through the cooling system, well, those are massive air pockets that will cause certain parts of the engine to get hotter than other parts. It will also cause the air bubbles to block off things like hoses going to the heater core, so you don't get any heat at all. Dang it. This is a Blueprint 383 stroker. This engine is 2 years old, and it only has 9,000 miles on it, and it has a blown head gasket. So I'm sure you guys are wondering, like, what are we going to do about this? I mean, it's not that big a deal to change a head gasket. Or, well, wait a minute, it could be, because these are aluminum heads. There's the possibility the heads are warped. I don't know what happened. I'm not the builder. I'm not the shop that did it. I'm not Blueprint Engines. I don't know who's at fault, and I'm not pointing fingers or blaming anybody. You know, when you're building vehicles, things can go wrong, things happen, and, you know, I wasn't there, so I just don't know if it was a defect in the engine. I don't know if the engine was not installed properly, if the cooling system was not bled properly. I just don't know. All I know is I am left with an engine with a blown head gasket, and I already took care of it. I know you guys saw this coming a mile away, didn't you? Yes, Blue Devil, do-it-yourself, pour and go head gasket repair. If you guys have been around the channel for any length of time, you've seen me use this stuff a million times. I've used it on Range Rover. I've used it on a Mercury Cougar. I've used it on several cars. I don't remember how many cars I've used it on, but it's great stuff. The good news is we didn't have any coolant oil intermix, so we were not milkshaking the oil, nor were we milkshaking the cooling system. It was just exhaust gases leaking. Now, these are very simple instructions to follow. You can leave the antifreeze that's already in it. You don't have to do anything other than make room for this, which thankfully there was already room because it had been burning coolant out of the exhaust as well. You basically let the engine cool down to be ice cold. You dump this in, you start it up, turn the heater on full blast, you let it run for 50 minutes, basically 1 hour, and then you shut it off and leave it overnight. I did that, and guess what? Let me show you. I'm going to come out here and I'm going to fire it up for you guys right now. It's cold, obviously. I took the radiator cap off. And before, good Lord, that wind. Before, when we would fire it up, man, you would just have exhaust gases just blowing out. And when you put the cap on and you tighten it down, you open that reservoir, you would see bubbles, exhaust gases blowing past the spring, the relief spring in the radiator cap, and it was blowing bubbles like a straw in milk, you know, blowing bubbles through the bottom of the overflow. So we're gonna fire this up for you guys. It's been sitting for several hours, so it should be relatively cold. Pump the gas a couple times. Listen to that. Turn that radio down real quick. All right. Well, she sure sounds healthy. She's idled up to about 1,500 RPM. Look at that. No bubbles. That is excellent news. Put this on. Come over here, and immediately you would have seen bubbles blowing through the reservoir. Take a look down there. Yeah, I know the reservoir is disgusting. We really should replace that with a new one, but no bubbles. And you can even see where over time coolant had been bubbling out all over the inner fender there. So let's kick that idle down a little bit. We probably need to adjust the choke on this. There we go. Runs like a top. Listen to that. And on initial startup, the exhaust pipes, both of them, are right here tucked under this bumper. It would blow smoke, basically steam, you would see blowing out of the exhaust when you first start. It does not do that anymore either. So we also have some more good news. You won't be able to see it. Whoa, the door just crashed on my leg. The temperature gauge actually warms up now. It's ice cold right now, but that temperature gauge actually warms up, and that's not all. The heater works. That's right. Something we've never had in this truck before was a heater. Because of the air bubbles blowing through the cooling system, it could not get warm. It was always ice cold. Well, it gets nice and hot now. Now there's another side to this story that I want to tell you guys about. I actually got a phone call from the previous owner of the truck, which was a dealership. I bought the truck from a dealer auction called ACV Auctions, and the gentleman called me and he wanted to make sure I got the truck, and he wanted to make sure that I got some paperwork, all of the documents he sent with it. He wanted to make sure I got it all, and he told me that he got the truck even cheaper than I did because they thought it had a blown head gasket. He said it was sold to his dealership as being a blown head gasket. And he said the best part is it didn't have a blown head gasket. He said the radiator cap was just bad. So they put a brand new radiator cap on it, and then his son and him took turns driving it for a couple of months, and they didn't have any problems with it at all. Well, as it turns out, it absolutely did have a blown head gasket, or at a minimum, and this is something I hadn't considered, perhaps because they are aluminum heads, they required a retorque. I don't know for certain on that, but I'm sure some of you can drop a comment down below and let me know if aluminum heads require a retorque after so many miles. Remember, the truck has approximately 8,000 or 9,000 miles on it since the engine and transmission combo were installed. So there is, in my mind, a slight possibility that maybe the heads just needed to be retorqued. Anyway, I don't have time to mess with all of that. I've got like 12, 13 cars right now that I'm dealing with, and I don't have time to mess with, number one, retorquing the heads on this engine. I know it's not that big of a deal. Or, worst case scenario, pulling the heads, sending them to the machine shop, make sure they're true, and, you know, then throwing some new head gaskets on. It's not a big deal. It is not super time consuming, especially because all of these parts are new, which means there should be no snapping bolts. All of the header bolts should come out just fine. it is no big deal to pull the heads off this engine. It is a big deal, and it is time consuming to send the heads to a machine shop and have to wait. I just don't have time. I'm daily driving this truck, and I've been daily driving it since I got it. I'm here to tell you that after doing the Blue Devil treatment, it's been about a day and a half now. I have driven it close to 200 miles. I've had no issues. The only issue that seems to be left is a leaking transmission. And I got a feeling it's not going to be something as simple as changing out a rear seal. So before we carry this thing down to AAR headquarters and get it up on the rack, well, I'm going to give this stuff a shout out to you guys one more time. It is not sponsored, but I am going to put a link to this in Amazon down below. So in the description box, you can click the link and go get this for yourself. They usually have a money-back guarantee. Number one in the country, repairs all head gaskets and cooling system leaks. And then it says something in Spanish. This actually does not say anything about a money-back guarantee. It used to. I guess they don't do that anymore. Well, anyway, used to, it was guaranteed, or they would refund your money as long as you followed the instructions. So guaranteed, it actually says it right there, guaranteed to permanently repair blown head gaskets, cooling system leaks, leaking radiator, overheating, and coolant loss. And here's the best thing about this, guys. You can leave this in the cooling system, all right? You don't have to flush this stuff out. So if you ever have another leak that crops up later or a crack or something, if this stuff is still in your cooling system, it will always work. Just make sure you've got antifreeze instead of water. You don't want it to freeze. This stuff will absolutely freeze. So the truck already had plenty of antifreeze in it. I bought a couple more gallons. I still have them. I didn't need any of it. So this stuff can stay in the cooling system, and it can continue working in case somewhere down the road you have another problem. Like I said, link in the description below. Well, guys, we got the truck out here on the lift. It's time to get it in the air and try to figure out what's going on. And I've put quite a few miles on this thing. In fact, I've been using it as my daily. It's been a good parts hauler for me today. I found a couple of Firebird wheels, the factory WS6 wheels for the 91. And in fact, I've got a full set. There's the other two, but my tires got lost in shipping. So I've got two brand new tires for these two, and I'm waiting for my replacement tires for those two. Then we've got Grand National wheels and tires, all four of them, guys, and some of you are going to hate me for this, but take a look. Yes, we have all four original 15 by, what are these, 15 by 8s? I think they're 15 by 7s. They're probably 15 by 7s, but all four, the same size wheels, same size tires. We got those put on today as well. I also got a ton of oil, Wix oil filters, light bulbs. I got all kinds of stuff, guys, because we've got a lot of parts for this truck. And I think my fuel pump is going out. So the mileage, I've put 322 miles on it just in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. And the damn thing, it gets it. It runs and drives absolutely great. It rides relatively good. But I noticed I got a kind of an alternating frequency sound coming from down here. That is what appears to be a Walboro fuel pump mounted right onto the frame with some rubber lines that run back inside the frame rail, and then I guess these run up to the carburetor. So that pump is starting to make some, well, pretty sketchy noises. I haven't had any drivability issues out of it at all. It's been running and driving absolutely fine, but I'm getting concerned that maybe that fuel pump is getting ready to go out. We're going to get this thing up in the air once I unload it. We're going to try to take a look at the transmission, the underside of the engine, really get a good look under this truck because we've never seen it before, the suspension. And I want to find out where that transmission leak is coming from. All right, let's take a look under this truck and get a better idea of what's going on. I cheated. I did it without you guys. And truthfully, well, it's pretty impressive under here. I mean, everything looks amazing under this truck, including this exhaust. They did a great job of hiding it, keeping it tucked in real nice, out of the way. The rear end, everything looks good. It's nice and dry. Shocks are Street Performance by Beltec. Somebody definitely spent some money on this truck. Here's the drive shaft, which was shortened, and I think maybe they shortened it a little bit too much. I'm assuming these are Flowmasters, although I'll be honest with you, Flowmasters usually say Flowmaster on them, and I don't see anything on this that says Flowmaster, but they do look like Flowmasters. You got a little X pipe going on right here. Then you've got this pipe that kind of comes from this collector, and it comes over almost like a crossover pipe, and then it joins the X pipe. So Dual exhaust, very nice. They did a really good job on this. Now, this is what I noticed that was a little concerning. You see a lot of fluid has been splattering around under here. It's kind of splattered all over the place. I mean, that's a lot. It's a lot of transmission fluid, and if you look, you can see it dripping. Yeah, right there. I mean, it's literally actively dripping. Looks like it's coming from the rear seal, but also, if you look on this tail shaft extension housing, you'll see it has a VSS sensor, and that is also leaking. So we're leaking from the VSS sensor, which I need to replace anyway. I'm gonna have to re-gear that because it's wrong. The speedometer is way off. We're also leaking from the rear seal, and I don't know about you guys, but I feel like that is way too much room. There's no play. Let me see if I can, I'll grab it and like, there's almost no movement. So I don't know, I just feel like that shaft should be much further into the transmission than it is. You have a nice drain pan for the transmission. You know, that's always good. Everything looks, I mean, it looks really nice under here, guys. Oh, there's a bolt that's coming out from the inspection plate. That's good. Does it have one over here at all? Yes, it does. Looks like we've got a traditional starter. I don't think that's a mini starter, normal starter. Serial number way back there on the back of the engine. Blueprint heads, blueprint everything. Looks relatively dry under here. I mean, it doesn't look like anything is actively leaking. This is a little concerning though. You see my my balancer? You see how it's all ate up and rusted? That's not good. Well, if we come over to this side and take a look, check this out. Take a look right there in the center of your screen. That is the power steering bracket that has been completely eaten up and destroyed by the balancer. Yeah, it was not clearanced properly, and I guess somebody, despite it making a ton of awful noises, no big deal. They decided to just run it anyway, and there's chunks of metal stuck to the balancer. So that's good. Looks like a little bit of seepage, either from the front seal, probably the front seal there. Maybe just a tad bit of seepage there. Here's your electric cooling fans. And there's some kind of like computer-controlled module, I would assume. It's got a bunch of little wires running in and out. Looks like we've got a little breaker right there. A little concerning that this is just sitting wide open in the elements. It could get wet. And it sure doesn't look waterproof, but maybe it is. It could be. Then we have our, over here, our gearbox, steering gearbox. And it's actually got a barcode on it, so leaves me wondering if maybe somebody at some point had replaced this gearbox. Overall, I mean, it's got a few minor issues, but really, for the amount of money somebody spent on this, and what I paid for it, it's also got braided steel brake lines. I just saw that. Braided steel brake lines. Looks like somebody's already gone through, replaced the ball joints, sway bars, or sway bar bushing, shocks, everything. Somebody's been in here and really, they really put a lot of money into this. I mean, somebody really put a lot of money into this. Now, did they get their money's worth? I guess that's the real question. And my answer is, I don't think so, man. Leaking like this after 10,000 miles, unacceptable. I am about 90% certain this needs to be at least an inch, maybe even more, man. That looks like a good 4 inches right there. I think you could probably put another 2 inches, maybe 3, back onto this drive shaft. And I think it would fit in there a whole lot better. You know, leaking out of the rear seal, leaking out of the VSS, and somebody filled the VSS with silicon. I don't know how well you can see that. But yeah, somebody used silicon on the vehicle speed sensor. And yeah, it doesn't look like a lot of things were done very well. Oh, here's another thing. This right here is the fuel line, which runs over, runs right, it's actually, oops, it's kind of down there a little bit, but it's in this little track right next to the exhaust, right? It's a rubber fuel line that runs over, up, out to an AN fitting, to a bent up pipe that then runs to the fuel filter, which runs back to the factory tank. So I guess it works. But yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that they put grommets in the frame so that you didn't pinch or tear up the line. But take a look at this. This line is bent. Look at that bend. I'm wondering if there is a fuel starvation issue. I mean, this thing is, it probably needs to be addressed. That could be part of the problem. But here's the fuel pump right here. Like I said, it's I believe it's a Walboro. I'm not 100% certain, though I could be wrong. There's a sticker on the back. Unfortunately, I can't see. Well, I can't see what it says. I would like to see what it says. Maybe you guys can. But, yeah, that's as far as I can get you in there. Overall, here's where I'm at with it. For 10 grand, I'm not upset at all. You know, it's got some issues that are going to need to be worked out. I don't think anything too major. I'm going to start with probably trying to replace that rear transmission seal on its own. That probably is not going to fix the leak. If it does, it probably won't fix it for long. But I'm at least going to try and cross my fingers and hope that we can stop the transmission leak just by putting a new seal in. I need to address the speedometer. That's a big deal to me. The speedometer is about 10 miles an hour off until you get up to about 60, which then is about 75 miles an hour on the dash. And the faster you go, the more off the speedometer gets. So no more issues with the head gasket. I've had no issues with that at all. No running issues, no driving issues, no other issues. It runs and drives absolutely great. I think that I got a lot of truck for $10,000. So I am not upset about it at all. But when you consider somebody had to have spent between $20,000 and $30,000 on this truck, that's when I have to ask, did they get their money's worth? And the answer is no. No, they did not. You know, they got a $30,000 truck that had a head gasket problem after 9,000 miles, a transmission leak after 9,000 miles, a fuel pump that is going out after 9,000 miles. That's a lot. And I can only imagine the person that spent all of the money on this truck, I can only imagine after dropping 30 grand on it, realizing it's got this many problems. Of course, most people would probably just give up on it. But, you know, one man's trash, as they say, is another man's treasure. Somebody spent a lot of money on this. I think they got kind of taken for a ride on it. But we got it for super cheap. And for 10 grand, I will drive this thing until the wheels fall off or until I decide to sell it. I think overall, it's a wonderful truck for a very small price tag. Well, just for safety, I checked the transmission fluid level, and surprisingly, it's full. That's a little concerning considering how much fluid is underneath it, because you'd think it'd be low on fluid. So here's another idea. Is it possible that somebody overfilled the transmission significantly and it's just been leaking out excess fluid? Yeah, probably not, but it's definitely something to consider. Listen to how beautiful this truck runs. I mean, yeah, it's an absolute tire shredder, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and shut it off. This is another one that I'm kind of torn on what to do with. I really don't know. Obviously, there's a few minor things that I want to fix up on it just because I want it to be right, whether it's for me or for somebody else. I don't want to send it down the road with problems. And don't forget, it's got a banging stereo too. It's one of the best sounding stereo systems I've heard in a long time. So whoever did this, well, they really did a good job on it, man. Let's see if we can, I don't even remember. I guess you just pull this up. There we go. Some JL audios. The whole system in this truck is JL audio. I have not seen the amps though, so we ought to go over to the other side real quick and take a look at the amps. This thing has all of its stock speakers, but replaced with JL audio. So JL audio speakers in the stock locations. And then they went so far as to add even more speakers. You got more JL audios down here as well. Same thing up here. You've got a little woofer sitting in there with a tweeter. Same thing here, another woofer with a tweeter. And there they are. There's what's controlling the whole thing. Also, all JL audio. On the top, you've got a JL Audio JD400/4. So that's a 4-channel amp. And down below, a JL Audio JD1000/1. So it looks like that's running the subwoofer by itself. Just a single channel amp running those two subs over there. 1,000-watt amplifier, and then 400 watts running the speakers up here. It's a phenomenal truck, guys, and you're not going to hear me change my mind about that. I don't think anytime in the near future. Not for the amount of money I've got into it. But at the end of the day, you know, as great as all of these cars are to have, I cannot keep them all. So I have to start trying to pick which ones I want to keep and which ones I want to sell. And while the truck is pretty damn amazing, I'm just not completely sold on keeping it yet. I am still sold on keeping the Cavalier. Currently, I'm still sold on keeping the Grand National. Even though I haven't driven this thing in probably over a month. And this car right here, never. I drove it for a video for you guys, and I parked it. I've never driven it since. It's literally just sat here. So I'm going to drive it home today. I loaded all my stuff from the truck into the trunk of this. I am driving my Z24 today. That is absolutely going to happen. I'm going to park the truck for now. We've got all the new wheels for the Grand National sitting here. And, well, we'll be getting into the Grand National soon because I've got a ton of parts for that. I've got a ton of parts, well, for everything, guys. And we really do need to get something done with this Grand National because this is another one that I am very torn on whether to keep it or sell it. Currently, today, I still think I'm going to keep it, but at the same time, I'm thinking we're about to build that Monte Carlo SS with a 500 horse 383. I think I'd rather keep the Monte Carlo SS, and I really don't see the reason in keeping both of them. So there's a good possibility that somewhere down the road, we're going to let this go. But of course, I'm going to put the factory wheels back on it. And then I'm going to have a bunch of extra wheels I'm going to have to figure out what to do with. But with that said, you guys comment below and tell me what you think on the truck. Is it something I should keep, or is it something I should throw up for sale? For 10,000 bucks, I don't see how I could not get my money, at least get my money back on this truck. I really don't. It is a great running and driving truck, and once I fix a few minor imperfections in it, I think this thing will be good to go for a long time. Now, it is unbelievably dark out here, but I have to give an honorable mention to the vehicles that are sitting in my front yard. My 73 Mustang, believe it or not, this is one I fully intend on keeping, and I know you guys are going to think I'm crazy because most of you do not seem to like the 73 Mustang. I love it. It's not super powerful. It's a 351 Cleveland. It's not an overdrive transmission, but I'm here to tell you, man, you want to talk about a car that's a great cruiser and still looks really slick? This is it right here. I put the white letter tires on it. It's got the Cooper Cobra radial GTs. With those white letter tires, the right size, the other tires were too small. This thing rides, runs, drives like a dream. You want to talk about something that starts first try, every try, carbureted, gets compliments everywhere. There it is. It is a $10,000 car. $10,000 car. And as far as a daily driver is concerned, this thing is epic. The formula, as much as I hate to say that this one is probably going to end up going down the road at some point, this is my 91 Formula 5.0. I've got the factory wheels and tires to go back on this thing. I'm probably going to send this one down the road not too long after. The 93 Fox Body GT. Manual transmission. We found out some interesting things on this one that we're going to have to come out in a different video and talk about. It is definitely not stock. And that leaves me in a bit of a predicament. I'm not really sure where I'm going to go with this car. This one could be one that I keep long-term, or it could be one that I sell. I'm torn between this one and my 89 LX 5.0. The Sunbird. By the time this video comes out, there's a good probability this car may already be gone. I actually put this up on Copart. If it's not sold yet, I'm asking $3,000 for it. It's a 91 convertible with like 108,000 miles on the odometer. Slight hail damage. Well, hail damage, all right? It's got hail damage, but the convertible top works, windows work, runs and drives great. 2.0 liter automatic transmission. Very, very decent little car. Put it up for $3,000 and we'll see what happens. Next to that is the 87 Monte Carlo SS, and this is the reason why I may end up having to get rid of the Grand National. I don't really see the point in keeping both. I paid like $11,000 for this car. The Grand National was $24,000. So once I get to the Grand National running right, you know, God knows I'll probably have $26,000 into the Grand National. I may or may not be able to get my money back out of it. I don't really see the point in keeping both when I have this. And this is going to be a 500 horsepower tire shredding monster for Power Tour next year. I know you guys are just wanting to kick me over considering getting rid of the Grand National, but I think I'd rather keep the Monte Carlo. But like I said, we'll see. Next to that is my 89 Fox Body. I think it's an 89. Yeah, 89 Fox Body LX 5.0. It's got the, what's that hood called? The Saravini? I can't remember. Very nice car. We got a lot of parts that need to go into it, including some springs and radiator and an instrument cluster. There's a lot. We've got a lot to go into this car. And then I've got to decide whether I want to keep this one or the Fox Body because, well, the Fox Body, the GT. It's a toss-up for me right now between the GT and the LX. Next to that, well, my Cadillac Escalade that I was going to give to my daughter. But I got to thinking about it with fuel prices being the way they are. This thing's a gas hog and it's big. I'm not sure that this is the right vehicle for her, so I'm actually on the hunt for another vehicle for her, and I may end up sending the Escalade down the road. Now it's getting really dark, okay? So if you can see anything, then this camera is phenomenal. This is my 94 Firebird Trans Am. This is a 25th anniversary edition, 5.7 LT1. I got it for super cheap, 6,000 bucks, and to be honest with you, I have no clue what's going on with this one yet. I tried to start it just to get it moved, and I could not get it to run. So right now I'm sitting on a $6,000 paperweight. It was listed as a run and drive. It sat here for about 4 or 5 days before I even bothered messing with it. And yeah, it does not run. So there you go. There's my 94 Trans Am. And right next to that is my $150 Mercury Cougar, 1983 Mercury Cougar. I have a new ignition for it. I think the battery has been brought back to life, so we're going to come back on this one, throw a new ignition in this thing, put the battery in it, probably clean up the writing on the windows and stuff a little bit. And I don't see any reason to get rid of this one right now, but at the same time, really, am I ever going to use a 1983 Mercury Cougar? Probably not. And with that, I guess I'm going to get out of here. Please do me a favor, drop your comments below and tell me what you think of all of these cars and what I am or am not going to do. I honestly can't decide. I'm torn because I really do love all of them, but I can't keep all of these cars, guys. I can't drive all of these cars. It's not even possible. I'm having a hard enough time just driving one for a week, bringing it down here and swapping it out for another one. Like, with all the cars I have out here, it would take me, what, 2 months? Maybe 2.5 months to actually be able to enjoy each car before I come back around to the first car all over again. I cannot keep them all. And as much as I want to, I would much rather see them out there being used by somebody else, being enjoyed by somebody else, rather than just sitting in my front yard. Drop your comments below, hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed today's video, and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already subscribed. Until next time, stay safe out there, everybody. I look forward to seeing you all again very soon in the next one.